oh my God. You know, I couldn't take any more. I had to turn it off. I couldn't take any more. It was too much.
Oh, Lord. Oh,
It was too
Martin,
much.
you've cheered me up no end.
You know, and as I say, that's my view on it. Don't fall for the hype. Don't buy the book. It's a complete waste of time.
Well, let's see. Well, I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna try and read it without buying it.
And you know what? I'll probably be first in the queue.
And you'll be saying to the listeners, will you look at this? Oh my God, Prince Charles is dressed as Marilyn Monroe and I'm in an orgy at Windsor Castle.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah.
That I would pay 20 quid to see. Thank you, Martin. That was such a joy. Martin in Fulham. It's 3:17.
This is LBC.
Serious about the right vitamins for you and your family? Trust Vitabiotics, the UK's #1 vitamin company with 50 years experience and the only one to receive the Queen's Award for Innovation twice from Boots, pharmacies and Vitabiotics.com. For #1 verification, see Vitabiotics.com.
You make the moments that matter. We just send the flowers. Order before 9 p.m. for next day delivery at zingflowers.com. See website for details.
There's some facts we can't run away from. Like 1 in 2 of us will get cancer in our lifetime. But we can come together to beat those odds. Hiya! As the new headline sponsor of Race for Life, Standard Life are joining Cancer Research UK on their mission. Together, we can help to grow Race for Life into an even bigger movement, giving more people a better chance for the future. Standard Life, proud headline sponsor of Race for Life. Shoo-be-doo-ah!
1 in 2 statistic from Ahmed A.S. et al. Here are the words every timeshare owner will be dreading to hear. Your 2023 timeshare maintenance fees are due. If you own a timeshare, you need to consider whether it's a good investment. MyTimeshareClaim.co.uk has helped thousands of owners who were missold exit their contract and receive compensation. If you bought a timeshare after 5th of January 1999, text timeshare to 78900. That's timeshare to 78900 to find out more.
Welcome, soul traders, to your guided meditation with Intuit QuickBooks. Let us help you relieve stress with self-assessment, accounting, and MTD for VAT, all in one place. Sit back, relax, and count on us. Get QuickBooks.
La creme de la creme. The bee's knees. Off the heezy faux sheezy. When you need a job doing brilliantly, that's a job for the Trusted Trader professionals. Pop in your postcode and what you need, and you'll find reputable and reliable local tradespeople, all who've passed the Trusted Trader 15-point assessment, ensuring that they and their work are top drawer. Find the Trusted Trader professionals at
Sheila Fogarty on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Oh, I think that call from Martin was the best call of the day, and it's cheered me up no end. It's just cheered me up. Jay has called from Windsor. Hello, Jay.
Hi, Sheila. I think it's cheered everybody up. On a bit of a serious note, Sheila, listen, I'm not super royalist, but one thing I have seen is with the coronation, the Jubilee, and the Queen's funeral, this is one product we have in the United Kingdom that nobody else has. It's just beautiful. Why are we trying to destroy, either within or without, this product? You do away with it. You've taken away so much history. It's a living product, but these are human beings. And, I'd like Martin to go and sit down with Harry and have a really good, gentle chat with him, because that guy is digging such a hole for himself. It's so sad, but the Crown survived an abdication. Come on, survived Diana, and she left a beautiful legacy, and all I'd say is, on a very serious note, William, please don't go and do an interview like your mother did, like your father did, like your uncle did. Be bigger than that, and just don't get sucked into the bait. And I think that's what we forget. Forget about them as individuals, but look what the Crown is. Yeah? Look what the royal family is.
No, it's not remotely comparable, the thing I'm about to say, but I think you're right about not giving an interview, or not even giving much of a statement, to be honest, because I remember at the end of my time at the BBC, I won't go into any detail because I can't be bothered, but it was an unpleasant end. It didn't need to be, but I was shocked at how it came out of nowhere, how unpleasant it was, and it was really shocking to me, and I was defamed in the process, and it was awful, very hurtful and disorienting and all the rest of it, and for about, I don't know, 3 months, 6 months maybe, I struggled with what to do about it, you know, and then I realised the best thing to do about it was to steer very clear of the individuals involved from here to Kingdom Come. Just understand in your bones that you had met two absolute wrong-uns in that process and you trusted them wrongly and all the rest of it, and then turn your face to something more positive and get on with it, which is what I've done here at LBC. And I think that is the way to handle people like that and situations
Sheila,
like that.
That is so wise. You sit down with William and tell him that, because I think he's got
Come
the
on,
whole
William,
world
give us
on
a
his
call.
shoulders.
Give us a call.
Yeah. I think he's got the whole world on his shoulders, because his father's only there for an interim period, and you know he pulls at the heartstrings, whatever, you know. And come on, you know, I've got two brothers, and they used to beat the hell out of each other. That's mild, you know. It's when William doesn't sit him down and say, "Look, Harry, rethink what you're doing here." Then you've got a problem, because then he's takes
And also,
away, but I don't care.
Also, which of us at 50 is anything like, in terms of our behaviour and our judgment calls and our assessment of situations, which of us at 50, or in their case 40, there or thereabouts, are remotely the same as when we were 20? We're not.
Absolutely. But Sheila, this is a book deal of 1 of 4. This is the first one out of 4 books.
Is it?
Apparently, I could be wrong, he needs more ammunition, and if the royal family doesn't rise to it, they're not giving him the ammunition. I just feel so sorry for Harry, because he looks dead in the eyes. None of this came along before this beautiful lady called Meghan came along, and you know, I saw the wedding. I was lucky enough to be standing in the
I was
corner,
down
not
there.
because I especially went, but it was so beautiful, and the crowd just adored her. So you know, it absolutely adored her. And
I mean, I can only speak for myself, but what I enjoyed about that day, what really sort of settled on me during that day, were two things actually. If you were down at Windsor Great Park, the atmosphere was like a family festival, wasn't it? It was absolutely beautiful, and the weather was great, and all of those nice things. And but about, for him in particular, I remember thinking back to that. I'm sure we all think back to that awful funeral day for Diana and how sad it was for them. And I just remember thinking, isn't that great? Isn't that lovely, the way life can revive itself and people can fall in love, and you know, I'm a complete sucker, obviously, and you know, and they do seem to be very much in love, and I hope their marriage sustains. I really do. And it's just so sad that within that situation it's become so bitter.
Yeah, Sheila, I really don't think so. That boy looks like his eyes are dead, you know, and it's got nothing to do with the royal family. And
but when do you see his eyes, Jay? You see them in interviews when he's tense, and you see them in photographs that are chosen by other people.
Yeah, well, that's true, but he's moved away from his family, his friends, the army. I mean,
and he says he misses it. He says he misses them.
So she doesn't have a family, you know, she doesn't really have a family. So I never knew what really narcissism was, and I looked it up and I thought, oh my God, she looks like a textbook case of it. She needs help as well, I think, you know, and I hope nothing happens to Harry, because I think the royal family will get the blame for it. And they, you know, anything happens, they'll get the blame for it. They can't do right from wrong. What should they do? And I really don't know.
Well, listen.
But one thing I do want to say is to the public, please look after the crown, look after the royal, the name, because that is the most amazing product at the moment. We've got nothing in the UK. Right? That one shines globally, you know, and yes, it's tarnished, but look what's happened in history to the royal family. There's been lots of I honestly think if we can survive an abdication, this country, it can survive Prince Harry. I just want him to be safe.
And an abdication, you know, with bells on, really, given what was happening in the country, and given the rumours about his connection to Hitler and all the rest of it. Listen, the thing we do have to look forward to, Jay, you won't be about tea and marmalade sandwiches. That much I'm certain of. Thank you very much, Jay. Jay in Windsor. Thanks a lot. Michelle has called from Southend.
Hi.
Hello, Michelle. Hi.
Hello, Sheila. Well, basically, I just want to illustrate what everybody else has said. Your previous caller and the wonderful Martin earlier.
I love him. I want him to co-present my programme for the rest of my life.
Do you know what? Sign him up. But honestly,
talk about anything.
Yeah, absolutely. But I just feel exactly the same. And I've spoken a few times about, Harry and Meghan, and obviously, and I just agree with your previous caller. I do believe he obviously is a very troubled man. He's never got over his mum. And I think everything stems from that. And he's still seeing that 11-year-old boy that, walks behind the coffin. And I think all his issues and everything stems from that. But he's not doing himself any favours, and if this is supposed to help him, I don't think it is. He's alienating himself. I feel sorry for Charles. I'm a mum. I've got 3 boys. I will say, Steve, I don't think they've been in fights as adults. But
you don't think what? Oh, fights, yeah.
Fights, as adults. But I might be wrong. They might have done it without me knowing. But to see your boys fall out, it's horrible, and I would, as a mum, I would never want that. But
it's painful, even if you don't have a long-term fallout like they seem to be having. It's painful to be in proper conflict with anybody that you love, isn't it? It's very painful. Michelle, thank you. Barbara has called from Windsor.
Yeah, I live in Windsor, so I saw that, and yes, I was heartened by the fact that so many people, and there was such an outpouring, as there was after Diana, of course. I don't know, what percentage of people? I think it's probably dropping now, isn't it, amongst the younger people, because they will have less history, they will have less knowledge of that. So I think my point is that is the reason that we are divided as to how we view what Harry's doing and what he's saying. I personally don't have a personal issue with. Issue's not the right word. I don't have
a problem with him speaking.
I don't have knowledge of mental health. I was brought. Okay, I do in the sense that I was brought up.
Oh my God.
None of us can comment with any deep knowledge of anybody's mental health, I don't think, but I think it's clear that those 2 men, when they were boys, had a great deal on their plate, as do many young boys in this country. It's not just them, but they certainly did. Thank you, Barbara. Barbara in Windsor. It's 3:33. Let's get the headlines from Amelia Cox.
A retired British Army colonel says Prince Harry may have put himself at significant risk due to claims in his book. In a leaked extract, the Duke of Sussex reveals he killed 25 people while serving as a helicopter pilot. The government has invited all unions involved in industrial action for talks on Monday. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says he's hopeful discussions can be constructive and they can find a way through this. And tributes are being paid to Gianluca Vialli, the Chelsea legend who died at the age of 58. The Italy international footballer had previously been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. LBC weather, dry and bright this afternoon with showers easing in the northwest, rain moving into Northern Ireland and southwestern areas, highs of 12 degrees.
This is LBC.
At Benson's for Beds, get up to 50% off this winter. Plus, until Tuesday, get an extra 10% when you spend over £650. You'll also get a free 5-year minimum guarantee. So whether you're looking for an ottoman with loads of underbed storage, a stylish hotel height headboard, or even a vegan-friendly mattress, you can make your bed your way. And the best bit? Buy now and you'll pay nothing until 2024. Search Benson's for Beds. Sleep made better. Terms and conditions apply. 29.8% representative APR. Credit subject to status. Benson's are a credit broker, not a lender. Exclusions and minimum spend apply.
What does paradise sound like? The lapping of the Caribbean Sea against golden sands? A cocktail arriving right on time. A 14-night P&O Cruises Caribbean holiday for £86 per night with premium accommodation, incredible dining, entertainment for all ages with flights and transfers included as standard. Yeah, that sounds like paradise to me. Get more holiday for your money with P&O Cruises. Subject to availability based on 2 per cabin, early saver fare, K3248 PF grade, conditions apply.
Tonight's Euro Millions jackpot could make your dreams come true, but not the dream where you're being chased by thousands of geese. No, the one where you're living it up on your own tropical island. Tonight's Euro Millions jackpot is £35 million. Euro Millions from the National Lottery. Play on app, online and in-store. Estimated jackpot. Account terms, rules and procedures apply. Players must be 18 or over.
Do you hear that? That's not just the sound of fresh coffee. That's the sound of free fresh coffee. Because my Waitrose members can once again treat themselves to a free coffee from the self-service kiosk with any in-store purchase. Oh, just don't forget your reusable cup. Waitrose, food to feel good about.
Selected stores subject to availability. Excludes cafe. Full T's and C's at waitrose.com/mywaitrose.
For delicious, award-winning jerky and biltong, visit RagingBullSnacks.com and enjoy 15% off your first order.
Raging Bull Snacks, made without compromise.
At a time when every penny counts, it's important to invest your money wisely. With Interactive Investor's award-winning ISA and Which recommended pension, you can choose how to invest. And our low, flat monthly fee means you keep more of what you earn. That's why over 400,000 investors already trust Interactive Investor to make their money go further. Invest for less in a world that costs more at ii.co.uk. Trading fees and terms apply. Capital at risk. Investment value can go up or down, and you could get back less than you invest.
Sheila Fogarty on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
I want to spend some time talking about the NHS as we finish this week, because although the problems and the acute nature of those problems, particularly in hospitals and connected to ambulance services as well, are nothing new. They've been getting more and more intense as the autumn and winter progressed. But this week it feels to me as though something has crystallized in terms of our attention on it and people's understanding of just how bad it has been on those wards and on those streets and in those ambulances. Here to talk about where we are at and what needs to happen is Rachel Clark, palliative care doctor, writer and author, who's calling for a national critical incident to be declared. The Lib Dems did earlier this week on the programme, and both of the main party leaders, Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak, when they gave speeches and took questions, were asked about the NHS as well. Rachel, thanks for joining me today.
Hi.
Tell us what the establishment of a national critical incident would mean.
Well, in a sense, it would be similar to what we saw at the start of the pandemic. We could bring in a range of measures that currently are not being brought in that could save lives. There are people dying every day at the moment. The Royal College of Emergency Medicine estimates the figure is between 300 and 500 people every week dying avoidably because of the collapse of emergency services. And we are obviously seeing that in the NHS on the front line. We are seeing patients who die while waiting in an ambulance, they die on a trolley in a corridor, they die on the floor sometimes in cupboards repurposed as beds. I mean, it is, honestly, it makes you want to just sob your guts out at the end of a shift. And I can't understand why the government knows this is happening. They know that there are a series of measures they could bring in that would reduce that death toll, and they're not doing it.
Well, when Rishi Sunak was asked about that figure, and others as well who've been asked about it, they don't, including NHS leaders, they say they don't recognise it. They say it's not that simple to say it's this number possible, because we have to. The reason we collate and the ONS collates and examines excess deaths every year is so that we get an accurate picture. Are you confident that is an accurate picture?
The reason I'm confident is that the Royal College of Emergency Medicine, you know, they're not in the business of plucking statistics out of thin air, and they have based that figure on an academic study which is recent, which is UK based, and which shows that for every 6 to 8 hours that a patient is delayed actually getting into a bed in hospital, for every 82 patients that happens to, approximately 1 extra patient dies who shouldn't have died, who needn't have died. So if you extrapolate from that data, that's how you end up with the figure. What's interesting is NHS England could calculate those figures now. They could do it real time on a week by week basis. And I think it's very telling that the government could therefore publish these data and are choosing not to. And you have to ask why. The NHS is meant to be transparent and open and candid, so why are they not releasing those figures?
And when Rishi Sunak talked about adding, because he was asked about that, the kind of help that you're calling for, he talked about giving overall about 8 billion more to the NHS and social care this winter because of the very crisis that you're talking about. Now, from memory, and this is relatively sketchy memory, I should have checked before I spoke to you, prior to the pandemic, some years before the pandemic, NHS England was seeking something like 12 to 15 billion to fund it, and got 8 billion at the time, and there was a better care fund for social care that ended up largely going to the NHS, not to social care. Is that 8 billion that he talks about 8 billion that the NHS should already have had?
To be perfectly honest, I think all of us in the NHS slightly lose track of these announcements because they tend to be
one on top of the other, yeah.
Absolutely. But I can tell you one thing that's really interesting. There was meant to be a crisis fund of £500 million that was announced by the government, either by Jeremy Hunt or Rishi Sunak in September last year, that was specifically designed to address the crisis we're facing now. So 1 in 7 patients in hospitals in England and Wales at the moment shouldn't be there. They're medically fit to be discharged, but there isn't a place in a care home or a package of care to look after them safely at home. So that's thousands of beds, about 12 to 14,000 beds that are filled with patients who shouldn't be there. So with great fanfare, that £500 million was announced in September, and this week, when Rishi Sunak gave his New Year televised message to the nation, he explicitly said that that money had been spent, it had been given to the NHS and social care. It hasn't. In fact, The Guardian published a well-sourced news article yesterday showing that 60% of that money hasn't gone anywhere near the problem. It hasn't even been spent. And I find that incredible. If we did what we did at the start of the pandemic, if we, for instance, paid to block book beds in care homes, as we did during COVID, we could get thousands of patients out of hospital, and for every bed we could clear, somebody who lies at home and dies of a heart attack could live.
Explain that to me. If they can be block booked, it means they're available. So if they're available, why can't people who need to leave hospital go to them?
So my understanding,
yes.
Yeah, now my understanding is, and I'm not an expert on the minute details of social care funding, but my understanding is that when this block booking system happened at the start of the pandemic, suddenly it made it much easier and much quicker to get these patients out of hospital. And I think that's because normally those beds may go to NHS hospital patients, or they may go to private patients, and often the private patients, they or their families pay more money and therefore they get the beds. Now, I apologise for not knowing the details, but I do know that made a massive difference at the start of the pandemic, and it could be done today, literally today.
And again, going back to your call for a national critical incident, would that also, for example, normalise and make more possible the commandeering of hotel rooms for care? I hear in the southwest there are a couple of hospital trusts doing that, or 3, I think, hospital trusts doing that already. Is that something you feel would be useful?
I think it's possible. I think that obviously the risks of hotel rooms are they need to be safely staffed, and the problem is we've got so many thousands of gaps in the care sector and the NHS sector. But what we could do is say, look, this is an emergency, it's a crisis. we've got to get things on a crisis footing. We could put out a national call for volunteers in the same way that we did to help with vaccination for COVID. We could give everybody 2 days of emergency training. We could even pay them, give them a golden handshake. And I believe that there are thousands of people in this country.
But to do what? To do what? To care? Because it would have to be safe, wouldn't it?
It's with helping them with their meals.
Okay.
This is the stuff that would get them out of hospital. They don't need to be in hospital. They don't need medical care. They literally need someone to help them wash and get dressed and eat. And I think that's the kind of thing we could do. It's creative, it's imaginative, it would make the public feel proud to help. But instead, we have a government who are literally denying the problem, downplaying.
And I know from my own experience with my mum in the last 5 years, when she had been in hospital for one reason or another over those years and was medically fit to leave, she was always able to leave because of the family she had, the numbers of us that could back up and what have you. And the difference in a person when they get out of hospital, just within a few days of being at home, is very striking.
It's incredible. As you know, hospital's the worst place to be if you're elderly and frail. Yeah. Even if you don't catch a bug in hospital, you start to decondition your strength so quickly. And all we need is a way of harnessing people's help and support, and we could do that.
And we can't forget either, can we, that the flu levels are very high and were predictably so, as we have the Australian example of their winter to look at, and there was no reason why post-COVID we would be any different. And we have the COVID predictions that were again predictable. What should have been put in place for that wasn't?
Well, it's almost, I think it's Albert Einstein, isn't it, who famously said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different response. We have this every year, but this year is the worst by far. Instead of putting measures proactively in place to address the crisis that we knew was coming as soon as we saw those flu figures from Australia, the government has again done the same thing, which is not think creatively about how to generate and fund extra capacity. So the block booking of care homes is one such example. It is completely baffling to me that the only thing that seems to trigger a response is the deaths and suffering reaching such a fever pitch that the newspaper headlines provoke a sort of rushed and garbled response. It's a tragedy because these aren't statistics. These are your mum, your dad, my mum, my dad. These are people dying who didn't have to die if the political choices and planning had been different.
Well, thank you for talking to us, Rachel. Rachel Clark, palliative care doctor, writer and author, along with others calling for a national critical incident to be declared. I wonder whether it will ever come. It's 3:48.
Coming up at 4 on LBC, Tom Swarbrick.
In all the mocking of the revelations from Prince Harry's book, isn't the story that makes him most relatable, perhaps most normal, the one about seeing his mum in a leopard?
Tom Swarbrick on LBC.
Welcome, soul traders, to your guided meditation with Intuit QuickBooks. Let us help you relieve stress with self-assessment, accounting, and MTD for VAT, all in one place. Sit back, relax, and count on us. Get QuickBooks.
At Specsavers, if we said you can choose a free lens option with a pair of glasses from our £69 range or above, how would that sound? Well, like this. Varifocals to help you see near and far. Reactions, which darken in sunlight. Oh, nice. Thin and light lenses. Or ultra clear, super clean. We don't have a sound for that. Let's just say they help your glasses stay cleaner for longer. So you're better off with Specsavers. Offers can't be combined. Terms and conditions apply. Ask in store for details.
In the O2 January sale, get a £200 digital prepaid MasterCard when you pick up the Samsung Galaxy S22. That's a new pair of trainers, running jacket, maybe some of those fancy thermal tights to keep you on track with your New Year's resolution. Start 2023 on us and get your £200 digital prepaid MasterCard to spend on yourself. Search O2 January sale. O2, we're better connected.
18 plus. Offer ends 01/02/23. 36-month device plan with linked airtime plan up to 24 months. Terms apply. See o2.co.uk/terms.
For the welcome back on borders and the new curious river explorers, For the recliners and the fine diners. For the self-explorers and the tell-us-morers. For the moment and the memories. For luxury European river cruises with the reassurance you're in the safe hands of which recommended provider, visit rivieratravel.co.uk or speak to your local travel agent. Riviera Travel, forever curious.
At Benson's for Beds, get up to 50% off this winter. Plus, until Tuesday, get an extra 10% when you spend over £650. You'll also get a free 5-year minimum guarantee. So whether you're looking for an ottoman with loads of underbed storage, a stylish hotel height headboard, or even a vegan-friendly mattress, you can make your bed your way. And the best bit? Buy now and you'll pay nothing until 2024. Search Benson's for Beds. Sleep made better. Terms and conditions apply. 29.8% representative APR. Credit subject to status. Benson's are a credit broker, not a lender. Exclusions and minimum spend apply.
Don't let flu stop you. Flu can lead to serious complications, particularly for those most at risk. Protect yourself with a flu vaccination. Free flu vaccinations are available to anyone over 50, pregnant women, those living with a chronic GP or pharmacist today to see if you are eligible for a free flu vaccination. This message was produced and fully funded by CSL Seqirus.
Leading Britain's conversation, LBC, with Sheila Fogarty.
Martin, if you're still listening, Martin, who had us all in stitches laughing, I think, based on these tweets I've got in front of me, you've really cheered us up, because I'm getting tons and tons and tons of tweets from people saying, be more like Martin, what a lovely guy, you've just made me laugh out loud on the walk to school with your conversation with Martin. Best caller you've had, Sheila, worth waiting for. Martin on Sheila Fogarty's show is a breath of fresh air, an absolute joy. And on it goes. Martin probably making me laugh out loud. He was a joy. A call on LBC lasted my entire drive home from work. An absolute pleasure to listen to your chat with Kevin. Martin, he called him Kevin, but corrects it. Martin on Prince Harry's revelations. Well, any more. Please make Martin your royal correspondent. That would be quite funny. Bring Martin on every week for a commentary on the week's events. I can't stop laughing. Martin had me laughing out loud. You may have heard me all the way from Canada. That's a good one. Sonia in Watford, hi.
Hi, Sheila.
You think our relationship has changed with them? How so?
I just think, over the years, we have seen a completely different side to the royal family. They have been, we've seen them coming out of nightclubs, we've seen them having social lives. It's a different generation of royals that have behaved differently to what we've had in the past. And some of these things that we think are shocking aren't as shocking at all. It is very different. We've seen the royals, the two princes being out and about, being out in London, being in nightclubs, coming home with their girlfriends. It's a different generation, and what we're seeing from them is totally different. So
yeah, and I guess, you and I weren't there in these older days, but I guess that's happened in the time of each monarch, hasn't it? Going back to, say, George V. He and was it Alexandra, and then George VI with the Queen Mother, and who was before them, I can't remember now. But like when Philip joined, having married Princess Elizabeth, when she took over the throne, he felt it needed to be beefed up and modernised. So change is normal, isn't it?
Change is normal, and change is not a bad thing. It just brings them more up to date. It makes them more relevant. It's not something that was in the past. It's something that's constantly evolving. It's changing with the times, and that's exactly what's happening. So I don't think it's a bad thing.
But no, it's not. I agree with you. But it always seems to happen so emotionally violently, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think this is the issue, that unfortunately it's not happening under the best circumstances. I think it's very much that, Prince Harry has trying to get his side out and has wanted to be heard for a long time. But actually, we're only hearing one side of the story. And his whole point was that he didn't want just one side of the story to be out, but it feels a little bit like airing your grievances, airing your dirty laundry out in public unnecessarily to get a bit more attention.
He argues this need never have happened. He literally uses those words. It didn't have to be this way. We tried for years to create a role within the family that didn't involve us being the baddies and them being the goodies. That's his summation of why it got so bad for them.
Yeah, that's his summation. But again, we're only hearing his side of it. We haven't heard what's
We are,
actually
but he
the other
can't.
side
He
of the
can't really
story.
give anybody else's side, can he?
No, he can't. He can't. And I totally appreciate that. And it is really difficult. You know, how do you, it's not happened, you know, that much before to create a different role and to create something different. But I think that he's kind of blown it a little bit out of proportion as well. You know, so yes, he's asked for help. Yes, he's asked for things to be different, just like his mum did. I totally understand that, and I totally understand where he's coming from. And I'm sure there are certain things that may have been changed, but maybe not to the degree that they wanted to. We don't know.
I mean, the hereditary system, such as it is, it doesn't help, does it, with the relationships between the people involved?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But it's something that does happen a lot, even if you take it outside of the royals. You know, hereditary systems have been around for a long time.
They have.
And, you know, like, I come from an Asian community. This happens in our community all the time. So you are kind of born into roles and you do have your place. And unfortunately, you know, either you accept it or you rebel against it.
And what would that mean in your family history? The oldest boy child gets the property, something like that.
Yeah. Fundamentally, you know, it's the boys that come first, and it's very rare for the girls to kind of have that recognition. I mean, I'm quite lucky in my family that I am the oldest and I am a girl, and actually my parents were very, what we call modern, and I have been able to step up without an issue, and we've been treated, you know, the same and fairly. But I do know a lot of people where that's not the situation.
Well, I noticed with when Prince Charles gave that announcement the evening the Queen died, or the day after, he talked about William and Catherine becoming Prince and Princess of Wales, and William taking over the Duchy of Cornwall and all of that, and he's been prepared for that for years, going to agricultural college and da. So you could see Harry thinking, right, well, that's his route. What's my route?
But he would have been brought up with a route as well. He would have been told what his succession plan was going to be, how he was going to move forward, how his role would evolve. You know, this is something that you've been.
But he was never obliged to do that role, though, was he?
No.
In the way that the heir typically is. Yeah.
Yeah, which is true, but also as brothers, you know, you look at them, you know, a number of years ago, and they were so close, and they were, you know, they had this great relationship, and he was really supportive of his brother, and how things have changed in what I would say is quite a short phase of time.
Yeah.
You know, you're not under any obligation, but as a family, you know, if you just look at them as a normal family, you do what you need to do to help your family, to help support your family. You know,
but if your family are hurting you and distressing you, and that's what he says was happening to him, then you're not inclined to, are you? You keep your distance for your own sanity sometimes. Thank you so much for all of your calls. Great to talk to all of you on this. And for those of you who couldn't bear it, sorry. I'm very sorry. I've just been amused seeing a tweet. A TV presenter, BBC TV presenter, Sally Nugent, is a very good friend of mine, and there's a campaign starting on Twitter to get her to do an interview with Harry, so they could call it When Harry Met Sally. I'm all for it. I'm starting it, or I'm continuing it.
I think When Harry Met Sheila would be better.
Do you?
I think you should start a campaign.
You can't say that. Sally might be listening.
No, well, I think you would. Oh, come on! Wouldn't you love to interview Prince Harry? That would be extraordinary.
Yeah. I would. It's never going to happen. Anyway, that's it from me. It's Friday. The weekend is upon us. If you missed any of today's show, I'm sorry about that. It was a corker. You can listen back on Catch Up on Global Player, where you'll also find all of LBC shows to catch up on, as well as the best video clips from LBC and other global stations. If you missed Martin, you can hear Martin again. Download Global Player for free from your app store, or head to globalplayer.com. Coming up at 6, it's Lewis Goodall. But now, Tom Swarbrick.
Thanks, Sally. Sheila. Afternoon all. Welcome to the show. At 4 o'clock.
He is acting like a spoilt brat.
Harry has to tell his truth.
Harry needs help.
I think in the long term, he's going to regret it.
Is this the biggest crisis for the British monarchy in 30 years?
I think it's just not what we expect from someone who's held the positions of authority. I think it was a very serious mistake on his part.
Take your pick of shocking, titillating, outrageous stories pouring from the pages of a book that seems to me to have been penned in pure fury. Part of its effect is to massacre the majesty from the monarchy, reducing it to the machinations of a dysfunctional family. It normalises them. Can you relate to Prince Harry, and particularly on his description about the leopard?
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 4 o'clock, Prince Harry has been accused of turning his back on his other family, the military. It follows claims he made in a leaked extract of his book that he killed 25 people during his second tour of Afghanistan. Retired British Army Colonel Tim Collins says it's not how we behave in the army. Former Defence Secretary and Labour peer Lord John Hutton has told LBC the revelations were a mistake.
Absolutely, they're not the right thing for anyone to be saying. And I'm sure he probably now already bitterly regrets saying that. I think it diminishes him. I think it's just not what we expect from someone who's held the positions of authority and responsibility that he has previously occupied.
The Prime Minister has revealed the government has invited all unions involved in industrial action to talks on Monday. Nurses, Royal Mail staff, rail and National Highways workers have all taken part in walkouts in the past month. Rishi Sunak says he's hopeful of a conclusion.
And we want to have an honest, grown-up conversation about what's affordable, what's responsible for the country. Those invitations have gone out, and I'm hopeful that those meetings can happen on Monday so we can have a productive conversation and find a way through this.
Members of the Unite Union for the Welsh Ambulance Service are the latest to back strikes this month in a row over pay and staffing. Two sisters were among 3 people who died in a fire in Perth. Donna Jans van Rensburg and Sharon McLean were both in their 40s. 38-year-old Keith Russell, who also died in the New County Hotel on Monday, as did Donna's pet dog. Police have appealed to a mother who has gone missing with her partner and young baby near a motorway. Constance Martin and Mark Gordon are missing after their vehicle broke down on the M61 near to Bolton last night. Greater Manchester Police say she's had very recently given birth, and neither her or the baby have been assessed by medical professionals. And Chelsea say Gianluca Vialli will be forever written across our history. The former player and manager has passed away at the age of 58 from pancreatic cancer. Supporters have been laying flowers outside Stamford Bridge. In the city, a short time ago, the FTSE 100 was trading up 57 points at 76.91. The pound buys $1.20 and €1.13. LBC weather, rain moving into northern and western areas tonight. A few showers in the east are possible, a low of 4. Cloudy and wet for many tomorrow. Rain clearing in the afternoon to leave some bright spells. Highs of 11 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Amelia Cox.
This is LBC. From Global, leading Britain's conversation with Tom Swarbrick.
Just got 4. Hello, afternoon. Welcome to the show. Tom Swarbrick at Drive here on LBC. Hope you find you very well indeed. Coming up.
Retail prices have come down more slowly, and the prime reason for that is the biggest retailers, the big 4 supermarkets, haven't cut their prices far enough.
With global oil prices falling over the last month, the Competition and Markets Authority is investigating petrol pricing after claims of price gouging. The RAC today say petrol retailers are overcharging. Are they? Details to come. Plus, it's a Friday.
America begins the year showing the rest of the world it's ungovernable. I'm Simon Marks, my American Week at 10 to 6.
Call 0345 60 60 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850. Tom Swarbrick on LBC.
Very good afternoon to you. Apparently, this is the biggest crisis for the British monarchy in the last 30 years. According to some of the papers, that the revelations are so damaging that the institution itself is put at risk. I don't think so. I don't think it's as bad as that. The edifice of monarchy remains intact, I think, so far. out of all of this. It's the facade that's been torn down. The majesty of monarchy has been ripped away. But to be honest, it's been happening for a while, hasn't it? Even recently, the stories about Prince Andrew, you know, the out-of-court settlement, the revelations of his friendship with a human trafficking billionaire, the constant drip, drip, drip of behind-the-scenes cash for access or endorsement stories from minor royals, but also the stories recently of King Charles's own charities receiving suitcases of cash from Middle Eastern millionaires who reportedly in return receive honours from the British state. And die-hard monarchists just can't bear it. You know, they don't want to see it because it does shatter their illusions about what this is all for. That the carefully constructed front was falling down, the fourth wall cracking. And now the fourth wall's been breached. We, the audience, the subjects, can see it all now. Dysfunctional, angry, damaged, at times laughable and petty, certainly not magisterial. And here's another tidbit that stands out for me in wiping off the varnish. It's alleged that the book details how King Charles still carries around his favourite childhood teddy bear. The King, the head of the Commonwealth, the defender of the faith, reportedly carries around a teddy bear with him. You know, like Mr. Bean. So have that in your mind at the coronation. You get all of this. All of that for show and pomp and circumstance, but meanwhile in my head I'm just thinking, Bean, hello. But maybe losing the majesty and mystique isn't so bad. Maybe it's what they and we all need. Maybe you carry your childhood bear around with you too, in which case good luck to you. Maybe you lost your virginity at age 17 round the back of a pub to an older woman who smacked your backside as you went, in which case, fair enough. Maybe you've taken cocaine and shrooms and had lots of therapy and killed people in a war. Is it that shocking, really? If you're in the army and you're sent out to war to fight, you might end up killing people. I think a lot of it is pretty relatable. Can you find yourself relating to Prince Harry on this stuff? We've talked about the drug taking endlessly. We've talked about the rights and wrongs of the number of people he says he killed in Afghanistan. We talked about the quick how's your father around the back of the pub. But there's one bit of this that I do want to focus on to see whether you relate to it. Whether actually, far from being something that is a source of ribaldry and hilarity and mocking, as is being made to sound by those who really take against him on absolutely everything, they are taking the proverbial out of him because of this detail in the book, making it out to be another example of the craziness of the mad prince, when actually I think it makes him more relatable, perhaps even quite normal. And that's what he says about a leopard. In the book, he says he felt the presence of his mother through a leopard he encountered while in Africa. Quote, "I thought of my mother. That leopard was, without a doubt, a signal sent by her." He details how he saw a psychic who claimed to have powers to speak with Diana. He says he received a message from the late Princess of Wales in which he was apparently told that he was living the life she couldn't. The medium is alleged to have told the prince, "You're living the life she wanted for you." The book also claims the unnamed woman told him his mother was with him right now, and it was at this point, he says, that his neck grew warm and his eyes watered. Now, I was going to say, I think I know that people who have lost their nearest and dearest in often the most horrendous of circumstances can relate to that. On the face of it, it is weird. It's kooky. You might think, and ring me to tell me, that it's the madness of a sun-drenched Californian who spent way too much time with the shrooms. But I think it's more normalising than it first appears, because I bet it's happened to you. I bet, having lost your mum or your dad, or your brother or your wife, your kindred spirit, I bet you have experienced their presence. I bet you've sought out their presence, to speak to them one last time, to hear their voice one last time. And I would have thought that in that search for them, you felt what you thought was them. Your neck then felt warm, and your eyes watered. Was that not a source of massive comfort? Or is it another example of Harry's madness? Is it another example of the ramblings of a complaining man-child, as it's being made out to be? I don't think so. 0345 6060 973. In Harry's description of a leopard sent by his mother, his recounting his experiences with a psychic, do you relate to that? Does it make him seem more normal to you? Or is it another sign that he's lost it? 0345 6060 973. Let's go to Tony first in Doncaster. Tony!
I think Harry was born into a showbiz family. His mother was showbiz through and through. The rest of the family have titillated our interest in them from time to time by falling into the hands of the newspapers, the media in general, and the whole idea of it is to keep our attention on them in the centre of the spotlight. Anybody who takes a word of this rubbish seriously really needs to take it.
gossip that he's had. I mean, his family also big psychic. You know, he came out of the East End of London like my own family did, and consequently there were a lot of psychics around there. Some would say charlatans, some of them. But then on the other hand, he gets enormous solace from the fact that he believes, and they have told him things that he had. I mean, my own grandmother's powers were so strong that when she was to go and see people, they would come out into the waiting area, the psychic would say, is there somebody here trying to get a message from it? It's my great-grandmother's name now. And the point was that she didn't know. And what's interesting now is that they don't actually ask you that much information. But what I would say about Harry, not to talk over you or anything, because I know I don't want to be guilty of not having the conversation, but I would say is that the danger of going public with this is
Well, I think that's right, and I think that's what's, to an extent, that's what's happening. I mean, I think there are reasons to be quite critical of Prince Harry. The great height from which he's dropping his family in it without their consent is one of them. But I think to seek out and mock how he deals with his grief is genuinely unfair. However crazy you think it might sound. Thank you very much for the call. Can I recommend, Alison, that you, if you Google panpsychism and the session, I think you might enjoy that episode of the podcast on panpsychism. Edward's in Brighton. Edward.
Oh, hi there. I've got no sympathy for Harry whatsoever. I think he's money motivated. I think the royal family are completely irrelevant in the 21st century. And he's just helping to bring them down.
Okay, can I ask you about your view about the leopard stuff and the psychic stuff and his mum?
Well, anybody who has admitted to killing 25 people, I wouldn't think they'd have a lot of trouble dealing with their mother dying.
Why not?
Well, it seems bizarre that somebody would come out with a statement like killing 25 people for start off. And I've lost my mother, I lost my father, and you deal with it. You get over it.
So the people who say they see signs of their loved ones in this, that, or the other are what? Not dealing with it?
No, we all deal with it in different ways, don't we?
But so why is the way in which Harry's dealing with it?
Well, because he's feeding off it. He's living off it. He's making lots and lots of lovely lolly out of it all.
But it might also
and he can't help himself. But once you start on that road, and the more you've got, the more you want. And that's how it's going.
Do you think he should have told us about it? Do you think he should have said anything about it at all?
That I don't know. I'm not one of these therapists, but I would say that he is so money motivated, and I think his wife is behind.
Why does that matter in an explanation of how he dealt with his grief? He's writing an autobiography, so he's going to be writing about one of the key moments of his life and of national life, the death of his mother. So why does his description of how he dealt with it offend, upset, or rile you, Edward?
I just find it's just obnoxious, the whole lot. I just find you just don't put all that out there. You're only putting it out there for a reason, because you want to sell books. You're selling your soul, and he's making lots of money.
Can I put this to you? Part of the reason I wanted to do this hour today is because I read a bit in the paper from Tom Parker's wife, Kelsey. I don't know if you know who Tom Parker is, Edward. Tom Parker was part of a band called The Wanted. He died age 33 of a brain tumour. And Kelsey Parker, his wife, talked about the moment that Tom died. And it says in the article, Kelsey said goodbye to her husband for the last time and went outside. She said, I was sitting there on this bench crying when I looked up and this feather fell down from the sky. I said to Tom before he passed away, will you give me signs every day? And he said, yes. I knew straight away it was him. I kept that feather. I still have it in a little glass pot on my dressing table. Do you think she should have
people have
bothered
their
saying?
dreams, don't they? People have their dreams, they have their thoughts. That's hers and hers alone.
So she shouldn't bother talking about it?
Well, why would you? It's something personal. It's something personal to you. Why would you want the whole world to know?
All right. Edward, appreciate it. Thank you. 03456060973 coming up after the news.
The work we're doing, the people we're arresting on that, 1 in 10 of them have got previous convictions for previous arrests for homicide. I think it's that tactic has started to bring the murder rate down.
The Met Police Chief, Sir Mark Rowley, has said London is fantastically safe after killings in the capital drop. Fantastically safe? We'll discuss. 4:31 news headlines. Amelia Cox.
Prince Harry has been criticised for revealing how many people he killed during his tour in Afghanistan. Former members of the military say it was ill-judged. Unions involved in industrial action say they're sticking to pay demands ahead of talks with the Prime Minister on Monday. Rishi Sunak has revealed they've been invited for discussions next week. And a murder investigation has begun following the death of an elderly woman in the Cotswolds. Police were called to High Street in Chipping Campden early this morning. LBC weather, rain moving into northern and western areas tonight. A few showers in the east are possible, a low of 4 degrees.
LBC. Join me, Andrew Castle, here on LBC. The advent calendar of strikes that we've got in December, it is profoundly difficult for people. You take Royal Mail for a start, 150,000 workers out. But is Royal Mail a dying business? Because I still see it as absolutely central to the community. It's a part of who we are. It's a part of the fabric of society. We've got to be careful what we lose. Join me, Andrew Castle, tomorrow morning from 7. Listen on your radio and on Global Player.